All right, welcome into the first film room that we're doing for the Lockerverse platform. Very excited about this and everything that we can give you through that. Because it's the first one, we are going to be doing a combined offense and defense, just going through the game chronologically, and pretty psyched about this. So, starting off, got Sparty coming on. I guess just by brief overarching things that I saw. State played a lot of man, a lot of one high. I thought that their defensive assignment football was very sound throughout the game. They were able to out athlete the Broncos of Western Michigan on both offense and defense at most positions, but was very impressed with what I saw from the defense, just as far as them looking connected. Opponent caveat aside, I think that never a bad thing to see that. Offensively, there was some under center stuff that I liked. I thought that, we'll talk a little bit about the issues in pass protection, about some of the positives in the run blocking department with a pretty substantial opponent caveat there as well. And then we'll talk a little bit about what that means for Childs and what some of his numbers and performance suggest, and the good and bad there. And then we'll look forward to what we might see from Boston College a little bit towards the end. So starting off on defense, this is pretty much just man across the board, man free, one high. There was a couple different plays where Western was able to hit big catch and runs. That's good defense. I mean, I think that's Eaton was in phase, had a hand up, looked pretty good in everything that you'd want out of him there. But just a good throw will beat good defense now and again. So I'm not overly concerned with that or anything that I saw there. Here again, you're looking at man across the board, giving up a little bit more space to the field, a surprising amount of space to the field with a free safety. And again, just you're giving up, if you look at how much space you're giving up on both the slot and the corner to the far field, you're giving up a lot of room there. It's a good route, comes back to the ball well. Obviously, Michigan State's not overly concerned about it. They did a lot of kind of bend but don't break type of a look. Not concerned about any of that. So I was debating whether I thought that this was designed or not. I don't know. It may well could have been. You have tear motion, get the linebacker to bump out a little bit. You have a kind of bluff block and the release from a lineman at a linebacker. Excellent job of wrapping up the legs to prevent a bigger gain. I think that was designed, was the verdict that I came out on. But, worth noting. So this is split zone with a keep or a read option tag on it, so it kind of looks like an arc zone. So it looks like split zone where you have the splitter coming through on the backside to kick out block here. Instead, you're more reading that end. You do have the splitter come over and looking like he's going to block the dive key. So it's interesting to me. I'm not entirely sure who they're optioning there, but there's definitely a backside read option. And just really a shout out here when you're looking at this cornerback. So this, I want to point out, this wide receiver here makes no attempt to block this corner. It's a stalk block, and then you're coming inside immediately, like to pick off this linebacker here. So what this is saying is we're putting if there's a keep read here, we're putting our quarterback one-on-one with your corner, and we think that that's something that our quarterback is going to win. Definitely not. Very good job open field tackling there. Every reason in the world to be excited about that. It's just they tried to isolate a matchup there that they thought that they could win, and they couldn't. So it's you like to see that. Outstanding defense here. Ball's thrown a little bit to the inside. Looking behind him, initially I thought that you have these two players kind of tunneling behind each other where you're looking to sneak this maybe a tight end or a larger wide receiver in the hook curl behind Jordan Hall, who gets in that passing lane pretty well, but the throw's pretty much out now on this out route. They try to get leverage there. Really good break on the ball by, I think that's Willie. if you'll note, and this is something that was happening all night, this quarterback is getting heated up quite a bit, so the ball's coming out quick. You're not getting a chance to get to a second or third read. Fine defense, and you give up that long catch and run, but that's kind of functionally it outside of that other quick out, which takes us to the first offensive possession of the game. So something we talked about in our preview is that Western was going to run an amoeba, right? So if you look at this here, 2 down linemen, 2 stand-up edges, you've got 2 safeties back, probably 2 linebackers, maybe a linebacker bumped out to cover anybody coming out of the backfield there. You can easily have that be a nickel or a linebacker, whatever you kind of want to do with your personnel groupings. Michigan State looks like they're going to be in that 3-by-1 tight set with from the gun. They have a motion off of that. What Michigan State runs a lot, we know this, is inside and outside zone. Now, if you're playing with 2 down linemen, Western does this, USC does this, Michigan does this, the Baltimore Ravens do this. It's that whole kind of amoeba defense tree that Western's defensive coordinator comes from. You can get away with that if you have 2 really, really strong defensive tackles. So, you can pick any number of what Baltimore's been able to do in the defensive line. Like last year, you might recall Michigan had Mason Graham and Kenneth Grant, 2 very, very strong and sound defensive linemen. Western Michigan's not going to be able to do that, right? So you have 2 down linemen, and if you're running outside zone, what that basically means is that in some way or another, Michigan State was either able to get a play side or a backside double on one of these down linemen on really any time that they ran outside zone. So I don't want to say that, it doesn't matter that Michigan State was gashing them on the ground. You shouldn't pay attention to the improved run blocking. Absolutely not. That's not what I'm saying at all. You should take note of that. But these are not world-eating, planet-eating defensive tackles. They are, I think, pretty undersized. They got moved off the ball a lot. But I mean, in the past, Michigan State was not able to get a push on a group of 5 offensive line, or defensive line. So I don't want to disregard what they were able to do, and we'll take a look at that on an individual play basis. But I also don't want to put too much stock in it. I think we're going to learn a lot next week, playing more of a major conference defensive line, even though I know that Boston College has some concerns there. Putting a big kind of we'll see there, but especially in the run blocking department, certainly not a downside, right? You can only play your opponent, and Michigan State did an excellent job here. So on the play side doubles, you'll see how successful those were. When there's a backside double, you can see just the effectiveness of having a cutback. There's one play in the second half that I'm thinking of in particular. So you get this tear motion. Split zone, so it's outside zone one way with Masunis coming back, being a splitter, kicking out the end man on the line of scrimmage there the other way. So that's the play that you're rolling with, and you can see right off the front you get a little bit of a play side double, and then your I think it's a guard popping off, maybe it's a center popping off and contacting and completely turning a linebacker there. So a couple tackles that I believe Mekhi Frazier was able to split, but just an excellent run there. And you can just see you want to push in the turn there by 72 to get that tackle turned. Really excellent. And then these defensive ends, we're getting blown out in run support all game. Just look at that lane there. Good stuff. So this is something that Michigan State did quite a bit early in the game, and it set up some of the success later in the game, or later in the half even. You've got, tight end, and then a motion out into kind of an offset eye. I really like this just in what it allows you to do from the play action, what it gives you in the run game. Taking Childs and putting him under center, I think adds a dimensionality to the offense that is most welcome. You get leverage here. Looks like, if they're in some sort of man, it looks like maybe they are. You get leverage by stacking Amari Kelly behind Nick Marsh, And this is just a quick, I call it a smoke route. Some people call it a now route, where you're just basically turning and getting the ball. It almost looks like a little bit like a bubble the way he's running it, but that ball hits Kelly in stride. He doesn't have to turn for it. He doesn't have to wait for it. He's able to cut and get upfield, and you saw what Kelly was able to do in the open field. Very, very impressive player in the slot. Somebody's going to be a big part of this offense, somebody that we were excited about with great reason to be. So like what they were able to do there, and I think later in the game they were able to pump fake that and then put it downfield, which is also something that you like to see. So again here, you're looking at 2 down linemen, tight end motion, but he motions into a block, and I like that quite a bit. I think it might have been a little bit better served, hindsight's 2020 here, if Velling was able to come inside and pick off maybe the slot player. Then you have your slot receiver releasing downfield to take out the deep corner there, because the kind of overhang player is able to get over and make the tackle. So I guess in my counterfactual, it would be more Velling taking the slot corner, the slot taking the linebacker, and then leaving Marsh to handle this corner who's playing a little bit deeper here. But regardless, again, you're running this quick little smoke route. You're throwing the ball immediately, and just getting the secondary used to crashing downfield hard, which they had to do quite a bit early on, so you can hit them over the top later. And it's a good way just to get touches to an explosive playmaker like Marsh, especially somebody that the defense is going to be keying on. So you can see here, 3rd and 2, you've got 3 down linemen, a stand-up end, another end or linebacker that's walked up here over the tight end, detached tight end, tight splits, and just kind of a quick little play action look. But Michigan State does this a lot, where they tunnel in a quick out that kind of ends with the tight end sitting at or near the sticks inside of like a hitch that basically kind of turns into a block for a wide receiver. And as a quick note, you see it here. I thought the wide receiver blocking down the field was excellent. And Velling's able to kind of put his foot in the ground, get upfield, get the first down. So we talked about the ability to get a play side double and backside doubles when you're running this kind of outside zone. Here, it's really just single blocking, but you can tell that Western is undersized because they play like it. Number 0 is taking himself out of this play, just working so hard to try to get around number 58 to get play side, to cut off those running lanes, because he knows he absolutely has to do that. Similarly, this defensive end that is unblocked is tearing hell for leather, trying to get to Childs if it's a play action, if it's one of those rollouts they put on tape last year, if it's anything like that. And you have just an excellent cutback lane here. I want to salute really good blocking here by the tackle to seal this linebacker in, where you're able to get into a 3rd and manageable just purely by the strength of that cutback lane in the run there. So here we see, I hesitate, it's not really a backside double, but you get a single block here on this down lineman, and you get a dominant double team right here on the other down lineman, and that's just a really nice lane for Mekhi Frazier to get through. Just look at right here, complete domination at the point of attack, good block downfield, and you're off to the races. So you have a double tight end set here. The video skips a little bit, but if you just look and see, it's just inside zone, and the amount of push that you're getting right off the ball. I mean, everybody except for this backside defensive lineman who's shooting really far upfield, who's only able to really get a hand on Mekhi Frazier. Just excellent push. Definitely better than a year ago. How much better it'll be against major opponent competition remains to be seen, but really, really outstanding stuff. So the video resolution comes back a little bit. Kicking was a bit of an adventure this game. We knew it was going to be with some folks out, but still good stuff there. So this is kind of a counter. You have a running back or a wide receiver motioning, trying to get the linebackers moving the wrong way. You're running zone the other way. Just good job by the backside defensive end. Realizes that he's being unblocked. It's a mesh. Is able to tear after the ball, limit it to a gain of probably 3 or 4. Get into third and manageable. But still, you're preventing a first down. This you kind of tip the cap. They did what Michigan State did, where they stack 2 wide receivers, get some leverage, have a runoff there, and just a quick sit at the sticks. By the time the cornerback gets there, that ball's out. Michigan State I don't think showed a ton on defense, especially in coverage. This is just man free basically. And if you're giving up that kind of room, you are okay with the transition cost of them converting a 3rd and short at the sticks. That's okay. So this you see the first of it's a man tell where you have linebacker motioning out with the motion, following the motion man, but just a perfectly timed blitz right at the I believe the guard, and you're able to knock him into the backfield. Michigan State was really active in blitzing their linebackers. I loved it. Outstanding tackle here. Forces a quick throw and a quick rally to the ball. Impressive. Again, here you're just looking at man, but I love, if you look, you have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 people at the line of scrimmage. You're showing a blitz. You're dropping out both your linebackers into the hook curl, and before they really get a chance to even get into coverage, they try to run this little wide delay where you bluff block or block a little bit on the defensive end and then release into the flat. Even if they get that off, you've got both players in the hook curl here. That's dead, but more importantly, that end doesn't get effectively chipped and is able to knock the ball out. So there was some not great stuff from Childs in this game as far as footwork goes. This was not that. First down, I love it. Your play action looks like your running game, right? It looks like that split zone. They're trying to compensate for having 2 down linemen with blitzing, play side, or bringing a linebacker. Look at Childs. We can contrast this to some of his throws later in the game. Right there, I mean, everything is going forward. He's throwing hard downfield. Everything's going forward. The ball is thrown on an absolute rope. That's good Childs. I mean, that's fantastic. A really strong throw. Love seeing that. You get a free play here, partially because they're so reactive to that run action because they know that they're undersized. You're able to get a chunk from that. Then this, you see Kelly again climbing the ladder. We talked last year a lot about how Childs was so effective in throwing those comeback routes. This is just from the pocket. I mean, being able to throw an out route like that. Throw might be a little bit high, but this cornerback has to give quite a bit of room to Kelly just because of the respect that he's earned from being able to beat people off the line. That's a really, really good throw. I thought one of the areas of growth that you could see was Childs was extremely decisive as a runner. Here, you can see this gap exchange happen at the linebacker level. Okay, so number 11 is coming down to cover either the give or force a pull, and then you see this linebacker rotating down with the splitter to cover anything there. Good block. I think maybe Childs, in a vacuum, maybe he cuts that up. but you do have pressure coming from the backside there that he pretty adeptly senses, is able to go and get a couple. It was well defended there, so you tip your cap a bit there. But Childs didn't run himself into trouble in a way that maybe a year ago he would have. So I've got no problem there. So good read off the line in that you can see right off the jump that Western's in man. If you're in man, you're thinking, well, who's my man beater? Kelly has done a great job in that in this game. You can see just fairly good coverage there. That Western cornerback, number 5, has to give up quite a bit of room to Kelly there just because he's so quick off the line. And Kelly's just quicker out of his break. That ball is perfectly thrown. I mean, just perfectly thrown for a first down. Really, really good. I thought Childs in the short and intermediate game was decisive and did a really, really good job. So love seeing that. Here you get play side double, domination inside. I mean, look at how caved in Michigan State is able to get this line, and you're just putting Mekhi Frazier one-on-one with a safety trying to come down from depth, dusts him on a spin move, and you're able to get into like 2nd and 4, 2nd and 5. Good run on first down. Just the ability to get that push off the line is outstanding. So here, State bluffs that with play action. You can see how reactive they are to that run action, pulling it, and we talked a lot last year about the effectiveness of these rollouts, these half-field reads, and how good Childs was at throwing them, and Masunis makes a fine catch. I thought Masunis played a good game. So this is just mesh. I mean, again, you're getting play action, you're getting man. You just have 2 crossing routes. I don't love seeing how quickly Western was able to get in the backfield. I thought Michigan State had some problems in pass protection. It's a good throw. Put it up to Nick Marsh. That's never really a bad option. He's able to make a really good catch. I don't love seeing, if you just look at Childs here, both of his feet are pointed at where he's throwing. It's all arm. It floats a little bit on him. I don't know if you could necessarily get away with that against a better opponent. It's not the end of the world, but you'd like to see him stepping into a throw. Granted, it's very difficult to be a pocket passer if you don't have a pocket to pass from. I'm cognizant of that, but terrific catch. But Childs floating and throwing off of his back foot and trying to kind of just arm it was an issue a little bit. This game, something to look for in the future. I thought this was good ball handling by Childs. I just want to point that out. He really kind of sells the keep read there, like he's keeping it. You can see 2 down linemen, play side double. You're able to get so far upfield. You're able to really wash out those running backs. If 2 of your offensive linemen are winding up on top of 2 defensive linemen, that's good. And a nice chunk on first down. Again, play side double right there. I mean, you're running this ball. You are not touched for like the first 5-6 yards. Then you're able to fall forward. Again, opponent caveat, but we didn't see that a year ago against opponents like FAU. So I want to just salute that was excellent. Also excellent here, play action, maybe an RPO. Childs is decisive. You can see the follow through, the weights on the front foot. Ball comes out hot. Fine catch by Kelly, but it's put right on his face mask. Excellent throw. So here, this is a pin and pull. You're reading this backside end. I understand why it's a give just because, or why it's a pull just because if you give, you've got some penetration here and just this backside end looks like he's really tearing after the running back. I wonder if Childs could not have waited another, we're talking half second, quarter second to pull that ball and force that player to that defensive end to really commit before pulling it. He gets wrapped up in the backfield. Again, I like that he just kind of goes down, doesn't get himself in trouble. But and that player, Moore, he was an issue all night. He's a good player. But I wonder if Childs could have forced a little bit more of a commitment there. Again, Childs, he just goes down, doesn't really get himself in too much trouble, but you don't like seeing your left tackle just really kind of get beaten around the end like that, beaten to the edge. Got away with a horse collar maybe, but man, I mean, you just that's tough because you're ISO'd up and he just gets straight beaten. Don't love seeing that. That was an issue all night. I think Western had 4 sacks. They had a 20% havoc rate. Don't love seeing that. Something also kind of to monitor as the game goes on. 3rd and forever. Just kind of running it inside. Again, I mean, really good blocking at the line of scrimmage. It just, you're 3rd and forever, so it doesn't really matter. But, it's still the run blocking in assignment football was excellent. Here, terrific pass rush. I mean, just an absolute pancake, I believe, by Dunnigan. Very fortunate that Western that they were able to avoid either an interception or a safety there. Or frankly, a fumble, which I thought that this may have been for a second. But, very fortunate, purely just kind of a luck play. But what wasn't lucky is just the ability of State to force that pass rush, which looked pretty ferocious all night. Very, very, very good stuff. And especially when you're down there at the line of scrimmage, when the line of scrimmage is close to the end zone like that. I mean, State only rushed 4. They devoted a lot of people to coverage. They had that little running back pop route covered well. But just the ability to get home with 4 like that. I mean, we're talking about a Michigan State team that went the majority or a large stretch of 2024 without getting a sack. No matter who you're playing, you like to see that. And again, that was almost picked off as well. When you're looking at just, I want to pinpoint number 41 is able to shuffle. He looks like he's getting into a pass rush, drops out into a passing lane, gets his hands up. I like that, just the ability to drop, have your ends drop into somewhere where you're not expecting. That's something that Michigan State showed a bit a year ago. Like seeing that as well. So we talked about that offset eye, the stacking of the receivers. I mean, it's 2-on-1 here, right? Pretty clear to see that. So I get, it's tough here with Kelly. He's in a bit of a bind. If you're this cornerback, your job is to basically make Kelly pick a side, and what you really want to do is force him inside, and ultimately he does do that. Kelly's just too darn fast for this safety to get to him before he's able to get the first down. If you're seeing a team that's playing off coverage, especially off man coverage, that's going to be there with great consistency. This is one of those cutback lanes that we're talking about where you can see these Western linemen are so eager to get play side that they lose gap contain, really good blocking up to the second level. You're able to get to second and short on a first down run. But these defensive tackles were undersized. And then when they weren't undersized, I mean, 91 is getting marched 5-6 yards downfield. They kind of took themselves out of the play as well on some occasions. So again, you can only play who you play. You can only block against who you're lined up against. Encouraging, but want to see that replicated against better competition. So this is, I think, a great example of Childs being extremely decisive while running. So this is a designed quarterback keep all the way. Western's extremely reactive play side. He gets a great cutback, fine block by Velling there. Really good block. Number 13, I think that's Bullard on a linebacker. And then Childs is just able to show the athleticism, get out of bounds. After taking a hit, almost getting to the end zone. I thought he was just very decisive and picked his spots really well when running the ball. So this is where you see the weakness, I think, in these some of these Western defensive ends. They were pretty good pass rushers and productive in rushing the passer, but not so much in run support, where this guy is turned, marched upfield. Really slick cut here by Mekhi Frazier, not to bounce it, to go back inside, to get inside of a block, I think by Golban there, and is able to get to the goal line. So impressive stuff. Just the consistency with which Michigan State was able to be successful in run blocking was impressive. This was, a fine play. You're just running kind of an out route on 5-yard out on second down, trying to get into third and manageable. Just, I want to flag Jordan Hall, who I thought was outstanding in coverage. The ability to break down, get a tackle, not really allow any yak. I thought Hall was excellent in coverage. That will be an asset for Michigan State throughout the season. State gets the ball back. Again, your left tackle just gets whipped. Completely submarined. Your right tackle holds up a little bit better. But still there's a stunt there. Right tackle gets a little bit too far inside. But the ultimate sin here is your right guard getting beat across his face, who's able to finish the sack on Childs. Fumble. Fortunate enough that State was able to recover that. But the pass protection has to be a little bit better. Again, third and forever. Good blocking up front, play side double. This tackle is just absolutely blowing out this defensive end. Contact on the linebacker. You're able to get some good yards, but it's just, it's kind of too late to matter. This is Western doing kind of their best attempt at trying to replicate what State was able to do and getting people in space quickly. You can see here you're looping a tight end to block, throwing a quick little swing pass, trying to get some yards, get out of bounds. 4-man rush, little stunt. Believe somebody got a hand on this for State. I thought State did they did. But State did an excellent job. This was clear on the broadcast and also in just rewatching the game of getting their hands up, getting in passing lanes. They're going to see some shorter quarterbacks throughout the year. That's going to be big. Childs here, you do see flat-footed throwing. Don't love that, but it's a crossing route to Kelly. Not really able to make a man miss. Got to burn a timeout. The kick is really not competitive, but again, you're on your third kicker, who I believe is your punter. You're not too concerned about that. If he makes it, fantastic, but you're not too worried about that. Here again, Childs flush from the pocket. I've picked on the left tackle a little bit. Does a fine job here. It's just kind of a mush rush collapsing of the pocket. It's here really the right tackle that gets marched back a little bit more than you'd like. Pocket collapses. Childs has to get out. He's really good at throwing on the run in the intermediate, a little less so downfield. We saw this last year. The ball tails on him a little bit, floats a little bit. You do have a player open there, but when you're throwing on the run like that, it's a little bit tough. I'm not as concerned about that particular throw as I was with others. Here you have, again, really well timed by Jordan Hall, able to get in and pick off the guard. Your defense or your tackle here as Van Sumeren really beats this tackle across his face, and the quarterback has to throw it away. That's good stuff for an internal pass rush. Seeing that there. This is the second instance of pretty good pocket and just it's a really good throw. Good offense will beat good defense sometimes. You could nitpick. The safety might be able to be a little bit more in phase, but it's really good body positioning. 82 Brooks, he could play for some Big Ten teams, and I think do some damage. I thought he was a pretty darn good player. So that'll happen. Here, Western's going with kind of the fake pitch, and just an excellent job. You get good penetration, to be sure, from the backside defensive end. But number 41, just outstanding shuffle, forces the keep. You're not gonna pitch that because he's right there, and then you're able to rally to the ball, force a 4th and long. I mean, that's really good. And Santiago coming out of Air Force, it's number 41, was highly touted as a active and cerebral player. You can see why right here, able to play both sides of that pitch really well. Outstanding. Not the only time that he flashed. So this was the play that I referenced in the first half when we were talking about really good cutback lanes and the ability to jump cut. So you get a play side double, backside 91's completely getting taken out of the play. Outstanding job by Masunis to kind of walk this defensive end inside, and this jump cut by Mekhi Frazier to be able to get out and get the first down. Really, really, really good. Definitely sat up in my chair when I saw this live. You can see the respect that Western has for Childs' ability to run the ball. This corner's only job is to tear after Childs if he pulls it. He is able to get back up and get in phase to try to track down Frazier for the tackle. But, Childs' running ability is functionally able to take that cornerback out of run support, out of the play initially. So that's impressive. So here it's a little bit more of something that you don't like to see, where you watch your right tackle get set up outside, swim move inside. Fine job by Mekhi Frazier to come up and pass pro there. But that forces Childs to kind of break the pocket. He's able to effectively do that and just out-athlete somebody to the edge for a first down. That'll happen, but I don't love the ease with which your tackle is able to get set up. You can watch that again. Outside and then immediately swim move to the inside. Don't love how easy that was. But so something to keep an eye on. And a lot of this, how concerning it is, I'm not able to tell you that until later in the year, when we get a little bit more proof of concept, but it's certainly something to watch. I did like seeing this. State did this a couple different times where you get a backside cut block and then a little pitch, and then you're able to loop around a tackle with either a wide receiver or tight end coming into crack that's able to get upfield. It's creative, and it's the spinning the tackle out into space. It's a good twist on kind of your normal pitch play that messes with the defensive keys a little bit, and I like that a lot. This I think was absolutely designed. The defensive line is slanting, so guard gets beat across his face a little bit, but really it's just kind of a pretty heroic ankle tackle, or else Childs probably is able to bounce off that linebacker and pick up a first down. So you tip your cap a little bit, but I like the play design. The safety here was terrific. Very good timing of the snap by Marsh, and then that causes a little bit of a resource allocation issue on the offensive line, where you have player has to slide over this tackle and take care of Marsh, and then you're slanting away, running zone the other way, so Thompson's able to come in from the backside. Tremendous strength by him and Van Sumeren to keep the running back in the end zone for a safety. Really, really terrific. Again, you can only play who you're lined up against, but man, I mean, the ability of the defensive line to penetrate, certainly encouraging. So here, this is one of the throws that I really didn't like. This is not a great pocket to throw from. I want to recognize that and say that right off the bat. But it's good enough where you could conceivably step up in it. But look at Childs right here. Both of his feet are pointing forward. You're flat-footed. He tries to arm it out to Kelly, who runs a very good route, and it floats on him a little bit and gets out of bounds. You want to see a little bit better than that. I'm not overly concerned about it just because of the decisiveness that Childs showed elsewhere. But if Childs is getting heated up and this pass protection issues that we've seen through this game and in the past, if those continue, really want to see Childs hanging in the pocket and throwing with a little bit more authority downfield. Easy for me to say from my couch, right? I'm not taking those hits, but you would like to see that in an ideal world, I think. This is a good run play. This is pin and pull. It's kind of like the zone answer to power, where you're having maybe a guard and a tackle, or a tackle and a tight end looping through. Actually, what's supposed to happen in both, I believe, power and pin and pull is this initial puller kicks out the end man on the line of scrimmage, and then the second puller comes through and takes care of whoever's scraping over. The responsibilities actually get inverted in this case, where the initial puller kind of seals inside a linebacker scraping over, and then the second puller seals in a kick out. And then the running back does a good job just kind of stepping through that and getting up for the first down. Hall could have been over that maybe a touch quicker, but sometimes you're going to get got. You just kind of tip the cap. I'm not really concerned about that, just given the strength of the defensive line and their ability to penetrate throughout this game. This is kind of what I would have liked to see from Childs a little earlier on that throw that floated out of bounds. Steps up in the pocket, realizes he's got some room. I don't blame Hall. Somebody has to take care of this running back in the flat here. And then, the quarterback's able to just kind of tuck it and get a first down. Maybe you want to see him tackled a little bit earlier. Not overly concerned about it. Here, I just wanted to note that State, you've got one high safety, but you have a secondary player walked down here almost in like an inverted Tampa 2. I think that might be Malik Spencer. It's hard to make out the numbers. Who then converts kind of to a cover 2 look post snap. Like that quite a bit. The coverage downfield was excellent. Pretty decent pocket initially, but the quarterback eventually just has to throw it away because nobody's open at all. You're always happy to see that. So these are those smoke routes that we talked about. Here, you don't even have anybody blocking. You don't have any sort of even illusion of help at all. It's just you see man, you're throwing it to Nick Marsh. We talked about that in the Nick Marsh Film Room against Iowa. That's really never a bad call. There's not a lot of corners in the league or on Michigan State's schedule that I won't feel good with Marsh against, and he's able to just kind of give him a head fake. Actually, pretty good job by the corner to break down and get contact around the line of scrimmage. Marsh is just too strong and is able to get forward for the first down. From a physical perspective, very impressive. This was just a good throw. You've got a kind of post with an out inside of it with a slant underneath that, kind of a snag concept. You see that quite a bit, and it's really not a slant. It's more of a whip route, and you come back in. Got a little bit of leverage there. The quarterback here, he stays in despite taking quite a shot, puts the ball in the face mask. It's a good play on 3rd and 7. Again, especially against kind of a man look. State played more man this game than I think they will in a lot of the season, probably because they knew that they could get away with it. You really want 11 to make that tackle coming over. I think I always mess up his name, but LaFale, he flashed a bit this game, had a sack. You want him to come over a little bit quicker and make that tackle, but I'm not overly concerned with it. You have a motion here into a 2x2. a curl with an out underneath it. State runs this a lot. And really, I mean, at that point, it's kind of a physics question where you're talking about a heavier tight end against the defensive back who's able to fall forward, get the first down. I like here, Spencer comes from depth, and he accelerates very quickly where he's able to get into the quarterback's face and force a throwaway. That's impressive. This is notable. I mean, this is just inside zone. Fine. Assignment football. Linebacker does a good job getting over, but a terrific stiff arm from Tautoliver. You only get a couple yards, but still that stiff arm is commendable and should be discussed as such. This is when I talk about Child's ability to throw on the run. This is outstanding. Breaks the pocket. Probably didn't need to. But it certainly gives him more room, and he has the ability to do so I don't have a problem with it. And, man, that's just a dart off platform, and Kelly almost breaks it from more. I thought Kelly had as good of a game as you could ask, but just a dart of a throw. Very, very, very strong. Here, this is that pulling tackle play. I think, you see the only problem I have with this is you're running it to the short side of the field, so there's some numbers there. You're not blocking this defensive end on purpose because you have kind of a fullback there, which is fine. Tackle does a fine job. Marsh doesn't really, he doesn't really block anybody. He gets enough of a shoulder here on this linebacker that the Western linebacker actually kind of trips and falls over. But Marsh is kind of drifting in space, and there's somebody he could have picked up here as a corner. Sorry, not there. At the safety level, who does ultimately kind of come. He runs past him here, and this safety comes down and makes the initial hit. Certainly not an effort issue, maybe a little bit of just a targeting identification issue because Marsh is an excellent and willing downfield blocker, but not too concerned about that. Here, you see the resources that Western has to devote to stopping the run, where you have 4 down linemen, you're bringing somebody from depth and a linebacker all play side. Number 20, I think at this point he's seen enough where he knows he's unblocked, squeezes pretty well to make sure there's not a cutback, and just the strength of Tautoliver to be able to run over him and get a first down. You love to see that. Here you can see Western made some adjustments in the second half where they're spiking. They have both their linebackers blitzing initially there. You're trying to, it's a pick basically where you have somebody pick off the center, and then you have another linebacker looping around. Fine blitz pickup there, and Childs hangs in the pocket and throws an awesome throw. Makes an awesome throw. This is fantastic. This is exactly what I want to see. There's somebody in his face, but he's hanging in there, making a really strong throw to a deep crosser. I was very impressed by that throw to Bullard. Really like seeing that. Again, you can see the amount of resources that Western's devoting to the run action. And you have Childs, just his ability to throw the play action off balance. That's a dart. Masunis, pretty athletic there. Hurdles one guy, eats a tackle attempt from another, is able to fall forward, get some positive yardage. Like seeing that. Here you're giving up so much room to this wide receiver that because there's a tight end pinning down the hook curl player, that's always going to be open. You're up by 3+ possessions. You're not really worried about that. It's a function of the defense, and it's fine. I want to salute Jordan Hall here as well, just because if you see, he gets over into the hook curl to get underneath that seam route, but his recognition where he sees this running back coming into the flat, he's able to come downfield, and just the power of that hit to hit the legs, to take him out, and to wind up with a negative play out of that. Very impressive. I like here where you have both your linebackers walked up and a safety player walk down behind that. You're not going to be able to get away with that against maybe an Ohio State, but you are certainly going to be able to get away with that against some other teams. But look at this. You have the middle of the field covered here at the snap. by Malik Spencer. You have both your linebackers walked into the gaps, the A gaps. At the snap, your linebackers are coming out, but look at where Malik Spencer goes. He flies all the way to the opposing flat to get under anything that's going there. That may well result in a pick later in the year. Very good pass rush here in that you're splitting a double here, and then you're able to get a stunt that winds up in a sack. That's outstanding. I thought the design of the pass rush, the architecture of it, and the execution of it was fantastic. Here, I know the coaching staff is very excited about what Michigan State has in the quarterback room behind Childs, and I think that they have good reason to be. But this throw, you can see, is a little bit Army, and you can't be late on an out route. You can see already the defensive players breaking on it. It goes to the house. I'm not too concerned about it, but I will guarantee that you don't see a Michigan State quarterback being late on an out route again. It's a teaching moment. I think it happens to a lot of quarterbacks, especially as they're getting acclimated to the college level and just the difference in speed. I actually like the design of the 2-point conversion play here. You're motioning a player inside the slot. You have the slot, kind of run a pick play. It's within 5 yards of the line of scrimmage, so it's legal. But then the quarterback throws it to the pick man, who's taking on two people, and the wide receiver that this play is, I guarantee you, designed for is wide open in the flat for a 2-point conversion. So stayed a little bit fortunate there. This is a pick play. I think if you're Spencer, you want to probably get over that a little bit quicker, or Chance Rucker, you want to get outside of that, really try to avoid being picked, especially when you see that zipper motion, and that he might come back out pretty quickly. You want to be ready for that. And again, another teaching moment, no harm, no foul, but do want to be cognizant of that. This is another, you see the stunt inside here where it's a 5-man rush. You're getting over 2 gaps to get pressure in the quarterback's face. Impressive, and just another excellent tackle in coverage by Jordan Hall. I mean, he's very impressive in coverage. That will be absolutely an asset to Michigan State this year. You can drop Hall into like a Tampa 2. You can do a lot with that. This is kind of a slow developing. I don't even know if it's a screen or if the running back is just kind of a release valve, because everybody's really covered downfield. And there's a lot of pass rush there. 3rd and 14. I mean, you've got forever to go. At this point, Western's not, I didn't think, really fighting anymore. Again, Spencer, his ability to blitz from depth, times the snap perfectly. That's a guy who's played a lot of ball, is able to get right to the quarterback. I mean, that was fantastic. Textbook defense right there by Rucker. Very impressed with him. I would not at all be sad about not picking that off. That was an excellent play. And that's pretty much your ball game. So again, a lot of good things to take away. The run blocking, want to see it replicated, but feeling good with what we saw there. Got a little bit less efficient when you saw 3 down linemen. So want to be cognizant of that and look for that going forward, but still pretty good. I thought the accuracy downfield from Childs, especially when he didn't have his feet set, that was a little bit concerning, but he was so good and decisive in the intermediate and the short. Didn't really throw any turnover-worthy balls. I thought that was impressive. Did not see a lot from the defense as far as schematic diversity. I think they knew they didn't have to, so looking for that next week, but was impressed with what I saw as far as the design of the pass rush. I was going to put together a preview for Boston College. I don't really think I need to do that. Just because I watched the package of them playing Fordham. They run a lot of the same kind of zone gun stuff that State runs on offense. I know that they have concerns on both their lines. I think their quarterback's a capable pocket passer. I like State. I don't think that you can take a ton away from Boston College and their performance against Fordham, except for the fact they couldn't run the ball. I mean, I think they were sub 4 yards per carry. I know they were sub 4 yards per carry against Fordham. That's not good. I'm sure from what I saw that they were not running the entire complement of the run schemes that they have in their playbook. But still, I mean, the fact that you couldn't just man up and run inside zone, just against the opponent that you should be really well matched against, I think is concerning for them and good for Michigan State. I like State against Boston College. I think especially at home at night should be a very electric crowd excited for that. Hopefully here next week we're talking about a 2-0 Michigan State team and looking forward to what's beyond that. So thank you again. Excited about this migration to the Lockerverse world and excited to be covering Michigan State and talking about the X's and O's with all of you. So feel free to ask any questions, any comments in the threads that we're going to put up on this, and excited to discuss with you. Thanks.